Hi everyone, can you hear me? So let's wait for the others. Okay, probably some people will join us. Hopefully. All right, I just posted story on IG, so hopefully some people will come. All right, so I already prepared some like a plan for us. Okay, what to cover, and today's topic will be about body mechanics and why it's important is because you can't really go further. You can't really go like call yourself an animator if you lack the skills in body mechanics fields. All right. Without this, you can't go really further in your career, and it's truly like indispensable skill uh, with your job. Okay, in your job. So yeah, like, and to be honest, it takes. Sorry. Oh fuck. And to be honest, it takes the most amount of time during your first years uh, of your education to learn this, okay, to actually analyze it, to actually feel comfortable with that. And probably it might be frustrating if you're just starting out because for like a first year, you probably will hear this all the time. Well, you need to practice, you need to, learn a little bit more of the body mechanics. And but how and what's the process here, because for from what I've seen so far, for some people it takes less time, it takes maybe 1 year, and for some people, and I spoke with like a lot of students, a lot of my like followers on the IG, for example, for some people it takes years. All right, so we want to avoid that. We definitely, this is not the perfect path for everyone. All right, so just practicing around and just working for 5 years, it's not a good, like probably not the perfect plan for most of us. All right, so in this lecture, this live stream, I will try to make it easier for you. All right, just to skip and just to progress as fast as possible to this, to reach this like a certain level of professional quality. All right, or maybe because yeah, if you just hustle and just work as much and spend as much hours as possible and just you know do some assignments, random assignments, right? It might be confusing, and it's not. And maybe it's not gonna get you the fastest results, although you are spending the time. So it's not like it's really frustrating. All right. So at the begin, so I would just share my screen to not be. Mhm. So okay, let's go here. Okay, so maybe this is the better way. I'm not super huge on the screen. So at the beginning, I want to just recommend you to join check out my course, okay, because this is what I do, a part of animating. So if you are interested in pursuing the career of of becoming a professional animator, then check out this, because you can learn and work directly with me, and yeah, practice and create your portfolio during the course with me. Okay, so yeah, we can just basically work towards your career goal. All right, so I would just send the link to the chat here. So if you want, I will basically grant the discount for everyone who are in this live right now, okay, today. So it will be like a 10%, $10 discount. So it's 20% of the discount. So it's basically like a monthly membership program. So you can jump, okay, learn with me, and you can basically cancel anytime. But I would actually recommend to everyone to kind of work maybe a little bit long term in terms of you're building your portfolio, because it's just a long process. All right, so we can definitely have the best results, but it takes time. So so just be prepared for that. Okay, so it's like a skill like everything else. It takes time to learn the swimming, like any other sport or craftsmanship. So that's why you need to be prepared. All right, so these are our rigs that we are using in the school. And this is what I basically sent to other students. So that's why we're gonna work with this one. Okay, also it's a little bit like a more quality rig than the others, because yeah, I hired like a professional rigger for that. So so we spent like more than like a few $1,000 on creating this character. Okay, so but before doing that, before going and analyzing the controls, I want to focus on defining why you should learn the body mechanics and how to learn that. Okay, so first of all, I think why you should learn, we already covered that a little bit, but we can go definitely deeper. So first of all, if you are thinking about pursuing like a gaming animation career, then this is like basically the entire body moving. All right, so there's no acting, there's no cartoony style. Everything is around the body mechanics. So if you gonna work in gaming, then it's even more important to practice this. If you want to even work with cinematics or motion capture, because I've seen it also that people kind of skip this part and just go straight to the motion capture, it's also not the perfect way, because you can go without like a knowledge behind how body works. It's hard to kind of change and adjust the data, all right, and create like some improve the data from the motion capture session. You can go, for example, you can go opposite way. So for example, if you know how the body works, then you can learn mocap pretty quickly, all right, because you understand those concepts. But if you just clean the mockup and then they ask you, for example, to change something, then it might be confusing and frustrating, all right, for both of you, for yourself and for your lead animator or the client. All right, so whenever you go in the animation, whatever like a destination or specialization you will pursue, the same concepts applies. All right, so we already know why you should learn this, and let's talk about how. Okay, so first of all, I'm not a big fan of just grinding hard and just pushing like how many hours do we have in the way, the most amount of hours, and just hustling. okay, because you have to learn smart in order to just not waste the time and just to improve the fastest way possible. So in this case, I will, for that, I will tell you the free, or like, yeah, I think free steps. So to improve it. So first of all, we as an artist tend to, just sit around in front of the PC and just work. So that's not the best case. Some of the artists are also has already some background with the drawing, or with this like a typical art related typical art. Okay, so for example, drawings really help you understand the entire concept of the poses. And for example, because we used to, people just used to look at the other poses on other people, and then they try to replicate the poses. All right, so it's really like more, it's really clear for them to understand, okay, how the balance works, how the hips, chest moves, what pose is, let's say, more comfortable for people. So drawing, this is the first thing. All right, just draw. I'm not talking about drawing like a really refined one with a lot of shadows, textures. No, really fast drawings. Even you can spend even like a 20 seconds for a particular pose. Okay, and we actually tried that. We actually practiced that in the CD project. We had like lectures for this topic once a week, and we spent like 2 hours on Fridays just drawing some models. All right, and so quick drawings. Okay, 20 seconds for the pose. It might be even further, like 1 minute, but don't go beyond that. All right, because you just gonna get distracted. You want to just capture the line of action, the weight, balance, and the silhouette. All right. So then we have to also focus on moving around our bodies. All right, to understand them better. Because since people tend to just sit around and do nothing, right? And then they kind of get surprised why they don't have the knowledge how the body works. So of course you need to just do sport, different kind of sports. For example, for me, really helped martial arts. Really helped a little bit to understand how, like, the concept behind the chest movement, the hips movement during some actions. So and really, it's not my idea actually. If you go to some website for the recruitment, some studios have written the point of it's really welcome to see some applicants with the martial art background, or dancing, or even gymnastics. All right, so just try to do this, just to be to avoid like the stiffness, okay, in your body. Just try to move around. Okay, so this is the second thing. And the third thing, what I would recommend, is just go to and play in theater. You can how to call it? It's not like a professional, but you can go to some classes, all right, to some acting classes, for example. So I think it's called improv. So just go there and you can practice your acting skills, because I've seen some, like, many of times, that people don't like to act. They are shy and they don't want to, they are not fully open if in terms of the body language. So they will have some problems later on during their career to kind of record reference, to actually understand the movement. All right, so so we have like a 3 steps: drawing, uh, sports, okay, martial art, dancing, or any others, gymnastics, and then acting. Okay, so the third one will maybe not the best one if you are pursuing some, like, a gameplay animator career, but on the other side, maybe on some point you would like to perform something on the mocap suit. All right, for example, for me it helps a lot to kind of be confident in my acting, in my body to to shoot the references, to actually perform with the motion capture suit, right? So how to record actually the reference, and because some people also just, for example, I ask students to record reference and they send me one shot. All right, it's probably not the best one, because this is the first attempt. They kind of a little bit shy at the beginning, so you have to feel more and more comfortable. So that's why you need to record as many references as possible to kind of gather the some ideas at the beginning. All right, so yeah, try to record as many references as possible. Always try to work with reference if you are just starting out, even though it might be some a little bit different, like a action that you are working on, but still reference is just for you to help. All right, it's not for always to replicate the movement, it's for you to help. Also, professional painters aren't necessarily paint the same stuff, the same character. They just there for finding out the right poses, the right colors, and so on and so forth. All right. If you are recording reference, also try to stay away from t-shirts like this. My students recently sent me the reference with the black t-shirt in the dark room. It wasn't the best way to track the movement. All right. So if you have some pattern on the t-shirt, really helpful for you. It's not a lot of work, but it's gonna help you tremendously later on with tracking the movement, with analyzing it. All right. So think about those things before jumping into recording session. All right. Okay. And what if you can't spot any movement during your work? All right, it might be also frustrating too, because some people, if you are animating, some people just don't assume that if we have character standing or sleeping or as maybe sitting like this, they assume that it's not moving. And this is a wrong assumption, because in animation, in 3D animation, we really try to move things all the time. Okay, even though they might, we kind of feel that they are not moving, but it's gonna lose, it's gonna break the illusion of life if things will become stiff and just will be stuck on the screen. So whenever you are working on your shot, try to move every every control and everything a little bit. All right. So even if the character is standing like this, we want to still have some small movement between those frames, right? So even something like this, even smaller, I would say. It's not even like maybe it's too small. Right? You get the point. I think. Okay, so what do we have next? All right. So maybe that was a little bit too fast in terms of the topics, but let's open the SceneSketch, the mighty SceneSketch. Probably some of you are already familiar with this software. This is the software that we received and give the critiques for animation usually, or for the, oh gosh, the quality is amazing. But yeah, we work with the SceneSketch a lot. I give the notes for my students. I also work with the SceneSketch in the studios, but some other studios are working with the F-Track or with the shotgun, shot grid. So yeah, you can get familiar with this. It's pretty easy. We are drawing, basically making a drawovers on top of the animation. But that being said, if you are a little bit, like worried that you can't really spot the difference or like the movement, or you can't really feel where, like how the weight is supposed to work, it's okay to use blueprints like this. All right, this is the stuff that I all the time I kind of help myself with. For example, maybe, well, I supposed to already remember those things, but sometimes I'm just lazy and I want to just make sure to things that I'm doing are correctly. So also I recommend this to my students, just to use blueprints. So for example, things like this, right? So our characters tend to walk all the time in the scenes. So we need to analyze when they're, for example, here, it's pretty easy to analyze when there are the highest points, okay, of the walk, and when are the lowest points. And yeah, because people, when they're recorded reference, then they are stuck with it, okay, they are super focused on in this topic. And I'm just, what I'm trying to say to you right now, and just don't get too obsessed about this, okay? Sometimes you have to just gather some help from the other resources. You can also record some additional reference for yourself to understand the movement even better. And this is the example that we, for example, worked recently with one of my students. Okay, something like this. And the character walked towards us in the 45-degree angle, and the camera was a little bit high. So we had a problem to track up and down movement during the walk, like here. And usually the people just tend to kind of move the, hips forward without having the proper up and down, which gonna give you this feeling of the weight, all right? So, so we stepped a little bit back from the reference, we went here, and then it gave us clear understanding when it's supposed to happen, all right? So then you can see that here it works pretty well, and we have like, a nice feeling of the weight, okay, when the hips are moving up and down. All right, so let's go to other topic. All right, so the weight, and this is the topic that you probably, as at the beginning, you will hear a lot, because yeah, like selling weight is a big problem in animation, and it's gonna make a difference between the junior animators and the mid animators, in my opinion. So what you need, because yeah, this that I just mentioned is also like a weight problem, okay? You can't really match the up and down movement on the hips. So to work with that, what I would recommend, what helped me particularly, is practice weight shifts. And what are the weight shifts? Is just when you are just standing, right? And you are weight shifting from one foot to another. And why do I think I'm pretty good at it. And like I would say better than most of animators, because I've spent like I think 1.5 year doing mostly this in our project. We in CD Projekt Red, we animated like a cards, so the characters were mostly standing, like in the pose, and they supposed to, for example, weight shift, all right, from one position to another, and then keep the pose most of the time. So it wasn't like a really like super amazing animation, but with this assignment, with this practice, it helped me a lot with finding out how this weight shift works, how the legs supposed to move, but yeah, mostly how the hips moves. So when they're supposed to have these, ups and downs, because most of the people at the beginning they just, like do one, like going in the straight line, okay, during weight shift, and you don't really want to do that. Okay, you probably want to have some up and down, going like transition below and then going to the another pose, or maybe going beyond. So always try to stay away from the, like a straight lines, let's say. Okay, so practice weight shifting. Basically, that would be my recommendation if you are struggling with the weight at the beginning. And I like this particularly because I found the rig when I can just enable, enable visibility of the upper body, and then I can just animate the legs, and it's really really cool. Actually, it's really gave me a lot of, like a joy to animate just the legs, right? So yeah, try to do this. Then later on, what we got is during the animation, move every part of the body. All right, we've already talked about this, but we can go even deeper. So if you have like a, oh gosh, pose to pose, so for example here and here, right, we are focusing on this foot between those two frames. But what you need to remember that this foot is also supposed to move somehow. Okay, so even if you are focusing on one action, make sure that the entire body is moving. So for example, if we think about this, what's gonna happen right here when this foot is, going forward like that, weight, the entire weight is during these 10 frames is on this foot. All right, so probably it should react somehow on this. So maybe we can, okay, we can just make sure that everything has a key in the same spot. So maybe this, maybe not like that. Maybe here we could add some like a bank, I think. Yeah, maybe some, like a reaction here on the foot. I want to add something like, no. Oh, bank. Yeah. So maybe, some pressure going on this foot. Okay. Maybe you can even like translate it even deeper to the surface to add the pressure on the rubber. Probably the leg, like the hips. If this foot is moving, then the hips supposed to switch to this foot, okay, to this leg, in order to maintain in balance, okay, to keep the balance. So really think about like the entire body, okay, never just focus on one part, okay, like you are doing some action, never just focus on this action only. Try to think about the entire body, okay, because action has like a consequences for the entire structure. Okay, it's everything stays connected. All right, so then we can go to another topic. All right, so here I want to talk about the philosophy and the approach of the how your body works. Okay, so this, let's restart. Well, so animators tend to say that hips are the source of the movement, okay? And this goes a little bit beyond that, because whenever you are moving something, pretty supposed to react on the hips movement, okay? So for example, the further it gets to the hips, okay, the later it should happen usually. So for instance, if we have some movement on the hips, then the chest will react later, okay? And then what's going to happen? Then this it's connected to the to the chest, so this will react later. This elbow is even further, so it will be even with the bigger offset, and same with the hand, right? So the further it gets from the hips, the slower, I mean the bigger offset you want to add on those controllers. Okay, sorry, I think I've missed some messages on the chat. I see. Finish. Okay. Hi, Stas. Oh, it's cool to see you here. Please make me stream private. No, I won't make it private for a few days, so you have still some opportunity to watch it later. All right, so let's talk about the other topics. Okay, so here, so remember about this concept. Some people call it like a tree, or I call it like a chain, because that's how body works. For the bodies, like the bones are connected with each other, so they kind of react. Okay, so whenever you have to just spot what is the source of the movement, okay, in this particular shot or action, and just make sure that everything will move a little bit with delay, okay, with some small offset. Yes, it will be uploaded, recorded. It's recording. So okay, so to another point, which is okay, so always, so body always tries to remain in balance. Let's take a look. So it's really important, because our body tries to do the best work possible to make us stand. It's pretty complicated if you take a look at from the body mechanics perspective. The robots, how many years the engineers try to make this robot stand and walk. All right, so it's pretty complicated task. So how does it work? Usually is our muscles try to make sure that the body have enough weight in the middle of the feet. Okay, so it remain in balance. For example, when I'm moving the hips like that, you can see I would fall. All right, so how to fix that is by rotating the chest. Okay, so here you can see, and I know it's kind of obvious, but people don't take too much time, and they don't analyze it, I think, a little bit. So if you compare if you draw the line here, we can see that this amount of weight goes through this line, just to make sure that I'm staying with aligned. right? So same, you need to stop looking at the torso as a like a some controllers. This weights, okay, a lot for on some people. Maybe not in my case, but it weighs. Okay, so it has like I don't know, 20 kilo, 30, but you know it's half of the body. Okay, so remember about this. So just make sure that hips and chest usually works in reverse to each other. All right. So usually, if you know when how hips are like rotating, then you probably you can guess how the chest is gonna look like. All right. So it's not gonna look like this. It's not gonna look like this. It will probably work in reverse. And the same goes to the chest. If you spot the chest rotation, then probably you can make the easier judgment on the hips. Okay, so chest and hips tries to always remain in balance just to keep you standing. All right, so that's the really important message. Another thing is here I'm doing the similar, like a little bit different movement, but you know, in the other perspective. So for example, here the chest is going forward and the hips are moving backward. All right, so they are moving in reverse. That's how body works. That's how actually body creates the energy for the movement. So for example, if you are punching or if you are just trying to gather some energy, you know, like you want to jump and etc., probably that's how it's gonna happen. Okay, this is probably how the action will look like. And yeah, obviously I'm not looking at the reference, but you know, I'm guessing, I'm using the blueprint, okay, the shortcut. This is what we've talked about here. So without the shortcuts, you will have some problems, maybe sometimes. Okay, all right. So another example. All right. So here I have a weight, and I remember I had like a huge problem when I was like animating. You know, how this is gonna work. All right. So this, for example, I have a weight here, so my body tend to do this. Not really, not really. We have like a strong muscles, so when we hit the weight, we always tries to kind of compensate to what we have here and just have as much weight as possible on another side. All right. So if you have some like a something heavy here, or maybe something tries to pulls you here on the other side, you always trying to do the opposite, okay, with your torso. So this is the correct actually pose, and this is not. All right, and check this out. My hips are doing the opposite. Okay, so to my chest movement. Okay, super interesting. Just to create this like a bend with my torso. Okay, and another perspective here. So we have like a straight line. No, not the best case. Okay, so this is not how we hold things. Usually we want to remain in balance and just keep everything as close as possible to this line, all right, to the balance. Okay, so of course if you have something here, it's gonna be harder than if you have the closest possible, okay, way. So also I'm bended this way, and check out with what my hips are doing. They are doing reverse movement. All right, cool. So hopefully it helps. Also here, the next topic. Our body tries to cannot do as much, like the easiest way possible for it. Okay, so if we are moving, we are not moving solely with this particular bone, with this particular hand. Everything kind of moves to make it easier for you, okay, to create certain action. So for example, right here, I'm reaching out with my hand here forward, but take a look. My back is also rotating, all right? I'm also rotating slightly the hips even, okay? And maybe even I'm moving forward a little bit, okay, slightly. But I'm not sure. I would have to, find out. Probably if the chest is moving forward, I'm doing this in actually reverse action with the hips. So probably if the chest is going forward, I'm doing this, the opposite direction, right? So make sure even if you have this simple action, right, you are maybe doing some, I don't know, like simple action. You are, reaching out for the phone. Maybe you are hitting with the hammer. Maybe you are, pressing doorbell. The same action applies, the same principles. So you need to move. You can't just move one arm, okay, and do this. You need to move the shoulder, the chest, and even the hips slightly. So later, if you are gonna work with motion capture data, this is the same rule applies. All right, so you can just move hand because it has to stay connected. All right, that's how it's gonna be organic, and that's how you will improve as an animator. So actually, whenever our hands moves, and it's really easy to do this if you are animating with Aiki, like these controls through this translation. So it's really easy to fall into this trap that that hand stays isolated from the chest and from the body. Okay, so whenever you are moving the hands, make sure that the chest slightly follows the action and that they are moving in the same way. You will probably won't have a problem like this if you're gonna animate everything at the same time. All right, and you remember about moving everything during the posing stage. All right, later, next here we got the example with the head. The same applies to the head movement, so never just rotate the head, right? Maybe I'm a little bit not super relaxed, so everything kind of is moving. But even here, check, chest rotates, even some shoulder, I have some like lifting on the shoulder. So yeah, everything has to stay connected. All right, cool. I think I've covered everything so far on this topic, like on this like grand idea, and then we can go to the like we can cover the controls, okay, and just talk about them. Okay, we have some question from Marco. In the industry, what is the most common mistakes you see animators still make? It depends from the from the field, from the project. If we are talking, for example, for instance, about motion capture, the first thing that is coming to my mind is the fact that there people tend to like apply some movement to one part and then they forgot to actually animate the entire body. Okay, so so for example, this is the like a mistake for motion capture. For the juniors, like usually, if they are good enough to enter the industry, they already have certain level. All right, so this is also different. So I usually think that they have still problems with the weight and with this like up and down with the hips movement. So the things that we talk about, so nailing the weight shifts. All right, so that's probably one of the biggest problems, and this is obviously because selling the weight is a big part of selling the realism. All right, so things are, if you feel the weight through the screen, then it became, I think, believable, just in my opinion. What else? Yeah, mostly these things. Sometimes I spot, and it's also like maybe like a junior, mid, or like even mid senior levels. Yeah, probably like mid senior. So for example, what I've learned when we animated simple things, that I had to shine somehow with the quality on the details, because I don't have anything to do otherwise as an animator, because my performance is solely like a pretty, like, super easy, in terms of the, like, it's not super broad, it's not like a huge action, so I have to really find out like some details to play around with those. So for example, if I had like the characters standing, I was really trying to make them feel alive in terms of the legs movement. And this is also like some note that I received many times from my lead, to just stay away that legs are glued to the ground for gameplay animations. If you're just starting out, they're probably gonna slide, right? Then next level, then they are sticking to the ground, so they are not, they're constantly on the same spot. But what you need to do is kind of, maybe have some adjustments or something like that. It's gonna also help a lot in terms of your animation. What else? Yeah, I think these things, probably, like, also the thing that we are talking about, so right now, body mechanics, it's kind of related, but it's gonna be harder to explain to you when we have like two actions. So for example, I want to grab this this marker. I don't want to basically create this pose to pose action. Okay, so one action, then another action. I always want to kind of refine this movement a little bit and add more texture to it. So for example, I can grab it like that, and then add something on top. All right, so just to make the difference. So whenever I'm doing like some pose to pose, I rarely just doing like two poses. Okay, if you have some, let's say, footstep, I also don't want to have like one position, another position. Okay, I always want to try add maybe two, like one in between, and then something at the end, for example. Okay, so just some additional rotation, or maybe some pressure, and etc. Right, it's gonna be, yeah, it's harder to explain like this because it's not a demo animation. I'm not animating right now for you here. Yeah, so it's definitely, we can cover that later on, next time. Okay, so in the next part here, I will cover something that's gonna be more interesting for you if you are already start animating a little bit. Maybe you find this confusing, these controls, and I want you to listen here, because this way, yeah, you will. I will just share my approach, basically, to kind of to how to work with those controls. Okay, and before we do, you can check my course. Okay, you can, if you want to work with me again. I'm not sure how many people kind of, if we have new people, but basically if you want to work directly with me on your portfolio, you can check out the course. I will share the link again on the chat. Okay, and yeah, you can check this out. And I also have like a 20% discount for the members of the chat today. So and till the end of the week. So check this out, guys, and let's work on your portfolios. Okay, so how the controls works. Okay, let's be real. It's a little bit frustrating at the beginning. You have a lot of them, and it is confusing actually. Okay, even here I have like a BOF. What does it mean even, right? So we have F key and I key. I prefer F key. These are like two systems for animating chest and everything through the rotation or through the translation. And my philosophy, my approach is, since our body is, connected through the bones, right? And then these bones are rotating. So the most natural way of moving around our bodies would be through the rotation. Okay, so for example, if I'm not saying that always I'm using them, but I'm trying to do that actually. Okay, so for example, if it comes to the to the chest animation, to the torso, I'm always trying to use the F key animation and move it through the rotation. Same goes to the head. I sometimes help people to translating the head. Doesn't really, it's not for me. Okay, so I try to use also F key, so animate the head through the rotation. Okay, so how the body, how we supposed to animate the torso? Big problem. I had it like when I was starting out, and I think a lot of people have this. I had huge problem with animating the torso because it was like bending. I was trying to reach some pose, but it was kind of it's like free controls working with each other, so it's hard to control them, right? And it's even harder to clean up later on. It's not hard maybe to pose the character, but when these poses are moving, it's kind of explodes. So my recipe for that would be animating them at the same time. Okay, so always I'm trying to stick with that rule whenever I can. So I'm always trying to rotate them at the same time. Later, you will thank me later. And because right now you can think, oh, what's the difference? Like if I'm, having the pose, then, I mean, what's the, I mean, what's the point? The point is when you are actually polishing. So right now, maybe it's not the huge difference, but if you're going to polish, and you will have to like clean the curves, the particular curves, then you will see the difference, because all of them looks the same. So it's really easy for me to clean this. Okay, the huge problem is when they are fighting with each other, and we have, for example, the chest moves like this, and the bottom of the belly moves in the like completely opposite direction. So then it's the nightmare for me to make these curves looks nice. All right, so always try to stick with that rule. Of course we can maybe force it some, I mean sometime we can just make it a little bit more, but the idea is behind the principle stays the same. Always try to make as much as possible with with them together. Okay, you can maybe tweak it for like let's say 20% extra, right? But the start should be the same. Okay, because at least they are moving in the same direction then. All right, so then we can cover what? The head. So yeah, recently my student asked me how I animate the head. So here it is. I usually work with the head in global mode. You can actually have these globals. So what it does is make this head independent from the body movement, right? So yeah, maybe some of you will, oh, what's, I mean, it's a gimmick, right? I don't need that. But I don't think so, because, for example, you can show it to your lead animator, to the director, to the client, and then they say, can you change the torso? I like the head, but can you change the torso? And then, you know, it's going to impact your head animation, your hands, and etc. So I like to make them as independent as possible from each other. So when I move the torso or some other part of the body, it doesn't destroy, it doesn't involve the rest of them. So I'm always trying to use these. Okay, follow global. And since I jumped a little bit too much here, and we are still in the head topic, so try to use neck and the head together, okay? Don't translate if you don't need that. Maybe again 10%, 20% if you need to reach certain pose. But other than that, try to work with them simultaneously like this. And then on top of that, you can maybe add some extra 20% like this, all right? But at least they are moving in the same direction with the some like shared values, so you won't see these things like moving separately. Okay, so always try to move as much as possible on them together, and also in the word space to make them independent from the rest of the body. All right, then the hands. And the hands, voila. So hands are actually not so hard to do. So first rule would be making them global. Also make sure that this control moves in 3 axes, and this one, make sure that, I mean, you can even log these other channels, but it should be really working with this, okay, with 1 axis. Okay, just like this. Don't move it around. Also, whenever you are moving arm, even this small movement, okay, so 20 to 30, try to lift shoulder, okay, because they supposed to work together. Also, the shoulder will kind of maybe grab the weight if you are pushing, but then it's released. But for example, here we also want to move the shoulder up. Okay, whenever there is an action like this, try to move the shoulder. Also here in this action we can do something like that. So work with the chest also. Okay, so make sure that they are connected with each other. I'm not a big fan of Aiki animation, to be honest, because as I mentioned, is a little bit detached from the body, so it's harder. The actually cool thing about the Aiki is that you can have, for example, some like a chest space, so it doesn't have to be always in the global. Is it worth it? Not sure. Maybe it's for like a little bit like for lazy people. What I usually do when I animate on the on the Aikis, my trick is moving them together. Okay, This way they will stay connected to the body. And then adding this extra 20% or something just to, adjust it, okay, just to make a little bit the difference. But the majority of the movement is the same, so I won't have this feeling of them detaching from the body, right? So next thing is legs. Legs are actually pretty hard to nail them. So that's why you need to practice weight shifts. And don't worry, I will be releasing in the upcoming month probably some like a tutorial for the weight shift. So yeah, you will be able to use them. Okay, so about legs overall. So feet are usually working, in Aiki, but what's the problem is the most amount of the controls that we have in the entire rig are for the legs, actually. So, try to not be, I mean, it's super easy to get confused. So my recipe here is to stay with one system, because here you have like one system, okay, of the controls here visible, and the system that allows you to move the controls through the channel box. Okay, so I usually do this either here or here. This one is faster a little bit from here and more responsive, but for the channel box, usually it has more options, okay? And easier to navigate. You have like a better understanding what's happening. So whenever I am on this feet is on the ground, I'm moving the controls solely with one system. Then when they are in the air, remember to restart it. Okay, just to reset it, and then I don't have any like bending happening, or maybe like some weird shapes that sometimes students have. So remember about like restarting your like shapes, and making sure that the feet stays in the zero pose. All right, that they're clear whenever they are in the air, and when I'm reaching out, like when I'm going to my destination, for example here, then I'm trying to do this, for the most part of the majority of the work with this controller. And then once I touch the ground, I don't want to rely on this, about rotating this, because then it's going to be hard with matching the, I'll make her lower. It's going to be hard to match the pivot point, all right, with the ground. So I need to reset it like this. And then I'm working with this. So, okay. So for example, like here, something like this. And then I have perfect connection with the ground, and I can just perfectly, align my feet with this floor. All right. So, guys, that's it. If you have some questions on the chat, then ask me. I would love to help you. Nothing. All right. So just at the end, I would like to invite you to my animation course. During this course, we'll be basically working together on your goal. So for example, if you are working on Mikołaj Witkowski, hello, I'm trying to get into the industry. Okay, Mikołaj. So what's the problem? Tell us. Do you have any questions? All right, so just want to finish. So basically, during this course, we can work together on your goal. For example, if you want to work in the gaming industry, we can check out your current reel, and we can create the new one. Okay, so just something that fits the certain studio that you are looking for. Okay, so usually that if it comes to the gaming, I usually work with we need to have like strong body mechanics. Okay, then we can work on more advanced topics. So usually you will have to get some combat animation, some creature animation, and also on top of that some motion capture, right? So different stuff. Okay, and so this is like one thing for gaming, and this is like what's actually passionates me the most currently. But if you want to work in movies, then you need to have a little bit different approach. Basically, we would work on some acting shots, like I showed you. Okay, so some body mechanics first, and then we can go on like this, right? So this is work if we would want to kind of work in movies, but at the beginning, to be on and then you can do acting shots and more advanced animations. Wojtek asks, is there a way to buy a portfolio review from? Okay, yeah, you can basically you can join the program. It's pretty affordable, and we are gonna work together on your portfolio. Or sometimes I'm doing the free review for on the live. Okay, but other than that, I usually work like that with people, because it's not like one review will solve the problem usually, because you have to kind of have some, let's say, progress, and have some, it takes time basically. Okay, so that's how I usually work with people. All right, so again, if you were here on today's live, I'll just take a screenshot who was attending. Then you can just basically have a discount for 20%. So which means that it 10%, $10 per month. Okay, less. So it's 40. Cool, guys. So hopefully, if you have some questions, then reach out to me directly for the IG or on YouTube, or you can write me on the email. Okay, and hopefully see you inside the course. And yeah, bye.